Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is NATASHA BINTI ZAINURIN. My metric number is 2210044. So here I am, will explain briefly on the article that our group reviewed on, which is The Fear of Missing Out, FOMO and Islamic Consumer Ethics, Examining Gen Z Behavior Through a Sharia and Moral Lens. This article discussed the growing influence of the fear of missing out or FOMO on Generation Z buying behavior. Due to the rapid development of social media platforms nowadays, young consumers are constantly exposed to idealized lifestyle and consumption trends, which shape how they make purchasing decisions. The main objective of this study is to examine FOMO-driven consumption among Generation Z from the perspective of Islamic consumer ethics. Thus, the author also aims to address the lack of studies that analyze FOMO using Sharia-based moral principles. The study adopts a qualitative methodology by analyzing classical Islamic sources such as Quran and Sunnah in comparison with the contemporary literature on FOMO, consumer behavior and digital culture. Besides, the article finds that FOMO is closely linked to social comparison, particularly through social media. Here, the article highlights Generation Z is highly affected due to the constant online exposure, which often leads to impulsive purchasing, overconsumption, emotional dissatisfaction, and financial stress. From an Islamic perspective, the author argued that FOMO-driven consumption contradicts key ethical principles. These include israf, which refer to extravagance, qana'ah or contentment, and ihtiyat, that emphasize cautious and responsible decision-making in consumption. Lastly, the article mentioned that Islamic consumer ethics provide a comprehensive moral framework to address the challenges of FOMO among Generation Z. So the author also recommend integrating Islamic values through education and awareness to promote moderation, contentment, and responsible consumption.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. My name is AR-RAIHANAH ZULKHAIRI, metric number 2117616. The rapid expansion of digital technology and social media has significantly transformed consumer behavior, particularly among Generation Z. One of the most prominent psychological phenomena emerging from this digital environment is the fear of missing out, which is FOMO, which refers to the anxiety individuals experience when they perceive that others are enjoying rewarding experience without them. This phenomenon has increasingly influenced consumption patterns, encouraging impulsive spending, trend-driving purchasing, and excessive engagement with consumer culture. In response to this contemporary challenge, this article offers an Islamic ethical perspective on Gen Z consumption behavior. The authors aim to analyze how FOMO-driven consumerism align or conflict with Islamic moral teachings, particularly in the principle of moderation, contentment, and moral responsibility in consumption, by employing a library research approach and grounded in Islamic sources and ethical theory. The article seeks to position Islamic consumer ethics as a moral framework capable of addressing the challenges posed by FOMO culture. The article review critically examined the objective, theoretical foundations, methodology, and key arguments presented by the author. It also evaluates the strength and the limitation of the study, as well as its contribution to the broader discourse on Islamic consumer ethics in the digital age.
Based on the article titled Phenomena of Fear of Missing Out FOMO, particularly among Generation Z Muslims, one key issue that emerges is the ethical conflict between FOMO-driven consumption and Islamic consumer values. FOMO encourages Generation Z Muslims to engage in impulsive and excessive purchasing due to social media pressure, influencer, and digital trends. This behavior directly contradicts core Islamic principles such as israf, which is wastefulness, qana'ah, contentment, and ihtiyat, cautious deliberation. Islam promotes moderation and mindful spending based on necessity rather than emotional or social pressure. However, FOMO shifts consumption decisions away from ethical consideration towards fear of exclusion and trend following. Therefore, this ethical conflict highlights how FOMO can undermine Islamic consumer values if digital consumption is not guided by Islamic ethical awareness.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is NURUL binti MAHAT with metric number 2116132. I will continue this presentation with the issue observed in this article. One major issue in this article is the mismatch between the title and the research method. The title says it will examine Gen Z behavior, which makes us expect real data like interviews, survey, or observations. However, the study only uses library research and does not involve Gen Z respondents. Because of this, the article does not truly study Gen Z behavior. Instead, it only discusses FOMO and Islamic consumer ethics in theory. This makes the title misleading. Another weaknesses in that article sounds too moralistic. It explains FOMO as a personal problem, such as weak self-control or lack of Islamic values like qana'ah. While the view fits Islamic ethics, the article ignores the role of digital economy. FOMO is not only caused by the personal weaknesses, but also by the digital systems that are designed to keep users online and spending. Next, the article also does not explain how social media algorithms and digital marketing work. Things like influencer culture, perfect lifestyles, flash sales, and countdown timers push people to buy quickly. This system strongly influences Gen Z behavior. Because of this, the solutions suggested are too idealistic. The article focuses only on improving individual morals and ignores the strong pressure of the digital environment. It also does not discuss how Islamic principles can be used to control or regulate digital platforms. This is an important gap in the study. Next, we will move to the part discussion. I will explain more the strength of this article. One of the main strengths of this article is its consistent use of Islamic perspective to explain FOMO. Every discussion about FOMO, including the negative effects and psychological pressure, is supported by an Islamic viewpoint. Instead of treating FOMO as something purely harm, the article explains its true Islamic values such as self-awareness, moderation, and trust in Allah. These give a more balanced and positive understanding of this issue. Another strength of this article is the calm and comforting tone of the article. The writer reassures readers that personal struggle, including those related to personality, always have solutions in Islam. This makes readers feel supported and understood rather than guilty or hopeless. Because of this, the article is not only academic but also spiritual encouraging. From a conceptual perspective, this article also shows a strong consistency in using Islamic normative framework. The discussion follows Sharia principles and is supported by reference from the Quran, Hadith, and academic sources. This clear structure helps readers understand the conflict between FOMO-driven consumption and Islamic ethics in an organized way. In addition, the topic of this article is highly relevant. FOMO is a real issue faced by Generation Z in today's digital world. By connecting psychology, social comparison, and consumer behavior with Islamic ethics, the article contributes to important social and educational discussions. In short, the article explains FOMO using Islamic values in a clear and gentle way. It offers both moral guidance and spiritual comfort, making it a valuable contribution to Islamic consumer ethics in the digital era.
Next, we move to limitation and critique. This article actually is very good because it has provided and spark awareness to the importance of fundamental teaching of Islamic in our life. Islam has taught us many things that should be done even though times are changing rapidly. Although this article provides us a meaningful contribution to the discussion of Islamic consumer ethics in the context of the FOMO phenomenon, there are several shortcomings that need to be noted. First, the study is entirely depend on the qualitative research and library research approach without the supporting empirical of data. The authors should be able to further strengthen the facts of study by conducting quantitative research. The author can conduct field study such as questionnaire among Generation Z or interviews with Generation Z itself. It will strengthen the data on the relationship between Gen Z behavior and the FOMO. The absence of this method caused the finding presented to be normative and conceptual and less reflect on the true reality of Gen Z user experience and behavior in the context of daily life. Second, this article is aimed to the Gen Z community but does not explain comprehensively and clearly what Gen Z is. The discussion of Generation Z in this article tend to be general and homogeneous. The article also does not differentiate between the different of socio-economic backgrounds, cultural environment among Gen Z, and the level of education, while actually, all these factors have the potential to influence the level of exposure and individual reaction to the FOMO phenomenon. In fact, not all Gen Z were raised with the issue and problem that highlighted in this article. This lack of detail may limit the article's ability to explain variation in consumption behavior in more deep and comprehensively. Other than that, although this article successfully connected the concept of FOMO with Islamic ethical principles such as israf, qana'ah, ihtiyat, and many more, the discussion presented emphasized either moral aspect rather than practical application. The author also only provide a rough explanation and does not provide specific example of how properly address the proposed issue using argument from the Islamic perspective. The explanation also about the principle israf, qana'ah, and ihtiyat have also been repeatedly stated as argument for discussion of several issues presented. This article does not give or does not discuss a concrete set strategies or mechanism that can be implemented by individuals, educational institutions, or authorities in effectively addressing the effect of FOMO in today's digital life. Finally, this article does not present a comparison with other ethical perspectives, whether from the perspective of conventional ethics or the different social disciplinary approaches. This need to be emphasized because such a comparison has the potential to strengthen the author's argument by showing the uniqueness or advantages of Islamic consumer ethics compared to the ethical framework in addressing the issue of modern consumerism. The reader will be more knowledgeable if the approaches of the perspective are also emphasized. Therefore, the lack of this comparative element somewhat limit the breadth of analysis and the discussion of it.
The most effective solution to resolve the ethical conflict between FOMO and Islamic consumer values is the integration of Islamic financial literacy and ethical consumer education among Generation Z Muslim, both in academic institutions and digital platforms. This approach focuses on cultivating core Islamic values such as qana'ah, ihtiyat, and istiqamah in spending. At the same time, it equips young Muslims with practical knowledge of muamalat or Islamic financial transaction, enabling them to make informed and ethical financial choices. By internalizing these values, along with the prohibition of israf and riba, Generation Z Muslims are better able to resist social media pressure and impulsive consumption driven by digital trends. Ultimately, aligning consumption behavior with the maqasid Sharia, which emphasize moderation, accountability, and purposeful spending, helps minimize the psychological effects of FOMO while fostering mindful consumption or muraqabah in today's digital consumer culture.
Now we talk about improving how we study and solve the problem of FOMO, which means the fear of missing out among Generation Z. First, research must match its title and method. If we want to understand their behavior, we need to use survey or interview with Gen Z people. If the study is only theoretical, we should say so clearly. Next, we should look beyond just personal feeling. FOMO is influenced by biggest things like social media, how this platform grab our attention, and marketing tactics that make us compare ourselves with others. Then, we can use Islamic ethics to guide how digital platform behave. Principles like justice, trust, and preventing harm, and market oversight can help regulate this platform and influence to be more responsible. Finally, education should focus on teaching young people how emotional manipulate online and how to use digital media wisely and ethical, not just simple moral advice. This way, we can create better research and practical solution for the real digital world that Gen Z live in. To conclude, this article makes an important contribution by exploring FOMO through the lens of Islamic consumer ethics, especially for Generation Z in today's digital world. It highlights key Islamic values like moderation, containment, continuous, and to explain the more and spiritual challenges young Muslims face with FOMO driving consumption. However, the article has some limitation. Its title promised to study Generation Z behavior, but it lacks empirical data, making its claim less strong. It also focuses mainly on personal self-control without addressing how digital systems like social media and marketing strategy, which is play a big role in creating FOMO. Thank you.